What is it? The North Carolina Supreme Court hates the voters of North Carolina? I can't explain why the North Carolina Supreme Court, in order to try to show one of their own justices, a democratically appointed justice, Allison Riggs, show her the door and not certify her fair and square win in November, that they're trying to disenfranchise, throw out the vote for 60,000 North Carolinians that got up on voting day and whatever deadlines they had for mail-in voting and were overseas because they're in the military and voted. So they want to throw out 60,000 in order to try to overcome Allison Riggs, Justice Riggs' 734 vote advantage. That's a democracy? It's disgusting. We follow it all. We cover it all on Legal AF Midweek Edition. Here's a clip.
So we said in the beginning that we were going to hit on this North Carolina thing. So I think
that's good. Very good. See, I got very into the whole Giuliani thing, and I skipped the North Carolina thing.
Okay. So I think we should just mention it quickly because what's going on there is absolutely bonkers, right? So first of all, I didn't know that people run for office in North Carolina to be the elected highest court in North Carolina, but they are elected. And it used to be a nonpartisan election, but they changed that and made it partisan. So you have Democrats and you have Republicans, and there's a majority-controlled Republican North Carolina Supreme Court. And there was a justice on the Supreme Court, a Democrat, Allison Riggs. She was already on the court and she ran for re-election, and the Republican, her colleagues, right, the court, her colleagues are refusing to certify that election because her opponent is trying to block it. So she won by a very, very, very narrow margin, something like 734 votes. And he's challenging almost 60,000 of the votes because saying that the voters didn't provide the last four digits of their social, or they didn't provide their identification, et cetera. And it's just atrocious, right? And I don't understand how they can do that, how they are in a position to do that. It almost seems like it's a very strange system that they have set up, and so they're refusing to certify it. So it just feels very partisan, right? It feels extremely partisan what's going on there. And, look, the other thing that's happening is the Democrats control the state election board, and they're rejecting the arguments of her opponent, right? They're saying, look, that your arguments don't have merit, and they're rejecting it. So it's just a very strange situation that's going on down there, and the justices are issuing opinions, the election board's doing it, and I think they're going to try to stop it and halt it, and I think they're going to try and give it to the opponent. That's what they're trying to do down there.
It's not that unusual for Supreme Courts in different states to be elected. I mean, Florida has an elected thing. They're appointed, but then they're up for election, or we call a retention vote. I'll just end it on this and then I'll come back to you. The DNC, which led the charge to go to federal court to try to stop this very thing from happening and stop the disenfranchisement of 60,000 voters, had this to say today about what just happened. Today, the Republican-led North Carolina Supreme Court blocked the certification of Justice Allison Riggs. She already, as you pointed out, is on the Supreme Court. No, she did not vote on this particular matter. She recused herself properly, despite two recounts verifying that she fairly won the election in what has become a month-long anti-democratic campaign. This is the Democrats now, at taxpayers' expense against Justice Allison Riggs, who was found to be the clear winner of North Carolina's November state Supreme Court election by two separate recounts. The Republican-led North Carolina Supreme Court is now attempting to give itself the sole power to decide its next member, rather than the North Carolina voters who unquestionably elected Justice Riggs. Make no mistakes, these craven attacks on North Carolina voters, the 60,000 he's trying to trash, her opponent, are an affront to the country's foundational values of democracy and the rule of law. One day after the 4-year anniversary of Jan 6, Republicans are once again attempting to overturn an election in plain sight. And that's the end of it. And it should be the end of it. And we're going to have to see what the Supreme Court does there. I think that's something, if they rule the wrong way, that the Democrats have to take it up to the United States Supreme Court in order to protect the voting rights of 60,000 North Carolinians that went with open heart and good mind and voted including veterans, overseas service people who voted. And just because, and I'll explain this just so people have it as a talking point. The reason why in your voter registration, you may not have your social security number or your driver's license on there is because that was a rule change that happened in the last few years. If you registered to vote like I did in New Jersey in 40 years ago, that wasn't a requirement. And they don't make you re-register if you stay in the state. I left and came back, but they don't make you re-register. So some people from 20 and 30 years ago on the old system of voter registration didn't have to use their, their social security card or the driver's license. That explains a lot of the 60,000. It's just, we as a party, the Democrats, are about enfranchisement, are about counting every vote, about making it easier to vote. And the Republicans are about voter suppression, making it harder to vote. That's why Donald Trump said it should end at 10 o'clock on the day of the election everywhere. Why? Why can't it be a week-long vote where I'm at the ATM and I'm voting at the same time, as long as we can make it secure? Why does everything have to be hard when it comes to it? That's why 20 million people sat out our democracy in November who were registered and decided not to vote. Besides 9 million Democrats who didn't vote for Kamala Harris that could have, 20 million people just said, pass, hard pass on our democracy. That's a problem. That's the result of voter suppression like we're seeing in North Carolina. Welcome back. We call this Legal AF After Dark. It's a clip from our full-length podcast. Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we do a show called Legal AF, only on the Midas Touch Network. And then, of course, we got Legal AF, the YouTube channel, where we do all of our daily hot takes, 5 or 6, 7 a day at the intersection of law and politics. I'm the editor-in-chief, the curator there, with some other contributors, all amazing, amazing people at the intersection of law and politics. Thank you for following us. If you know about Legal AF, we're people-powered. We don't have any outside investors. Join our show on Wednesdays and Saturdays and on podcast platforms, wherever you get it from. Just plug in Legal AF, come on over to the Legal AF YouTube channel and help us build that pro-democracy channel as well. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.